The grand hall of the Aurora Peak space station gleamed under artificial sunlight, its crystal panels reflecting the brilliance of thousands of stars outside. Delegates from across the galaxy had gathered here for the annual Species Security Summit, a meeting where leaders discussed the safety and management of dangerous creatures from countless worlds. For the first time in history, humans were allowed to attend. Most species in the hall had lived their lives in fear of predators, creatures far stronger, faster, and more lethal than themselves. Among them, one creature had achieved legendary status. Its name alone sent chills through even the most fearless beings: Vorgrath. The Vorgrath was kept inside a reinforced containment tank in the center of the hall. Its body was massive, covered in jagged scales that glimmered like obsidian. Its horns curved like sharpened scimitars, and its eyes glowed with a strange, intelligent light. Rumors whispered that a single swipe from its claw could crush a small vessel. Entire planets had recorded losses from this predator. No species dared approach it. No species survived its wild territory, and now human was walking into the same hall. Dr. Elias Ward stepped lightly onto the polished floor. He was a xenobiologist, trained to study alien life forms, but otherwise, he appeared completely ordinary. He wore a simple white uniform, a small data tablet in one hand, and a calm expression that made him look like he was simply visiting for tea rather than confronting one of the deadliest predators in existence. Council delegates murmured among themselves. The human, one reptilian delegate, hissed, "He does not understand the danger." Another, a six-armed creature with scales that shimmered violet, whispered, "Even their weapons would fail against it." Elias ignored them. His eyes, wide with curiosity, scanned the Vorgrath's massive form. He noticed the subtle twitch of its claws, the rhythm of its breathing, the faint scar along its flank. Unlike others, he did not see a killing machine. He saw a living creature in pain. The Council's representative, Ambassador Threx, a towering insectoid with translucent wings, cleared his throat. "Delegates, we present the Vorgrath. This is the species known to destroy entire colonies without warning. Observe, learn, and remember why the galaxy fears it." The containment tank pulsed with energy, a shimmering barrier of force that kept the Vorgrath inside. It raised its head slowly, sniffing the air, and a low, rumbling growl echoed through the hall. The sound made delegates tremble. Some instinctively backed away. A few even pressed themselves against the walls, hoping the sound would not reach them. Elias, however, took a step forward. A human moving closer to a Vorgrath was considered madness. Legend said no alien could survive an encounter. Yet Elias's movements were deliberate and calm, as if approaching an animal much smaller than it truly was. The Vorgrath tilted its massive head, studying him. Its eyes flickered with curiosity, or perhaps surprise. "What is he thinking?" muttered one of the reptilian delegates. "I don't understand," stammered another. Elias crouched slightly, lowering himself to appear less threatening. He carefully observed the Vorgrath's breathing patterns, the slight twitch in its forelimbs, and the way it shifted its weight from claw to claw. He tapped his tablet lightly, recording the data. Suddenly, the Vorgrath let out a thunderous roar. Alarms blared. The room shook as the sound reverberated through the space station. Delegates screamed and ducked for cover. Some scrambled for the exits. Security drones activated, their energy rifles aimed at the Vorgrath. But Elias did not flinch. He noticed something in the roar that others did not. The sound was not one of rage. It was pain. The creature was wounded. His heart beat faster, not from fear, but from understanding. He looked closer and saw a jagged shard of containment alloy sticking out from its flank. The metal had pierced the Vorgrath during transportation. It was trapped and hurting. "This is why it is restless," Elias muttered to himself, almost inaudibly. The council was in panic. "Pull him back. He cannot survive," shouted Ambassador Threx. Guards moved closer, ready to intervene. Elias raised a hand, signaling calm. He spoke in a soft voice, as if talking to a nervous child. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you. I just want to help." The council froze. No one had ever dared speak directly to a Vorgroth. They had no idea if it could even understand vocal tones, let alone a peaceful intent. With deliberate care, Elias took a few steps closer to the shimmering barrier. The Vorgroth followed his movement with its glowing eyes. Its breathing grew heavy. It flared its nostrils, but did not attack. "Open the shield," Elias called, his voice firm, yet calm. "It's in pain. We can help it." The council gasped. "No. That is forbidden," shouted one delegate. "Do you want to see the human die?" Elias shook his head. "No. I just need a chance to make it understand that I am not a threat. That's all." Ambassador Threx hesitated. The other delegates were muttering heatedly. Opening the containment shield went against centuries of protocol. But no one could deny the truth. The Vorgroth was suffering. After tense minutes, Threx raised a claw. The shield began to lower. The hum of force fields faded, leaving only the quiet, eerie presence of the massive predator. The Vorgroth blinked. Its nostrils flared. The roar had stopped. Elias stepped closer. He raised his hands slowly, palm open, to show he carried no weapon. His eyes never left the Vorgroths. Every other delegate was frozen, watching in terror. Security drones hovered nervously, ready to fire. "Steady," Elias murmured. "Easy, easy now." He approached the shard in the Vorgroth's flank. The creature flinched slightly but did not attack. Its massive head turned toward him, eyes filled with cautious curiosity. He knelt beside the Vorgroth. With precise movements, he pulled a small med scanner from his belt and examined the wound. The shard had pierced muscle and armor, but missed vital organs. Elias breathed a sigh of relief. "Almost done," he whispered. "It'll be okay." Using careful, practiced hands, he removed the shard. The Vorgroth growled softly, not in anger, but in discomfort. Elias sprayed a light healing mist over the wound, then gently applied a bandage-like adhesive. The creature flinched once more. Then it did something no one expected. It lowered its massive head closer to Elias, sniffing him, studying him. Elias placed his hand on its snout. The Vorgroth's hot, scaly skin pressed against him, and he felt its steady, powerful breathing. The room was silent. Every delegate, every security drone, every camera feed was focused on this moment. The deadliest predator in the galaxy is being petted by a human. Whispers erupted. "Impossible. It cannot be. Humans are insane." Elias gently spoke to the creature, his voice soft and rhythmic. The Vorgroth's breathing began to slow. Its massive body relaxed slightly. "This is amazing," a young delegate whispered. "It's calm, not attacking." Elias smiled faintly. "Most species think fear controls others. Sometimes calmness is stronger than weapons." The Vorgroth's eyes shimmered, and it pressed its massive head further into Elias's palm. The delegates stared, mouths agape. Some took out datapads, recording this moment for history. Others simply could not believe what they were seeing. Ambassador Threx finally broke the silence. This human. He is doing what no other species could. He is communicating." Elias stood slowly, still keeping a hand on the Vorgroth's snout. The creature stepped back just enough to allow him to rise, but it did not move away. Instead, it stayed close, almost protective. "The Vorgroth is not a monster," Elias said, his voice carrying across the hall. "It is a living being. It feels pain, fear, and confusion. Nothing more." For the first time, the council realized that perhaps humans were different. Not only did they face danger without fear, but they could also connect with it. The room remained tense. No one dared approach, but everyone watched. A single human had done the impossible. The Vorgroth blinked, its glowing eyes meeting Elias's. It let out a soft, almost approving rumble. The delegates froze, realizing that the creature, feared across the galaxy, had accepted a human's touch. Elias stepped back, removing his hand slowly. The Vorgroth did not move. It remained calm. The council was silent. Shock, awe, and disbelief mingled in the room. For centuries, the galaxy had feared the Vorgroth, For centuries, it had been untouchable, and now, a human had done what no one else could. This was only the beginning. The grand hall of Aurora Peak had never been quieter. Delegates stood frozen, still unable to fully believe what they had just witnessed. A human had touched the Vorgreth, the galaxy's deadliest predator. Without a single scratch, without fear, without even a tremor in his voice, Elias Ward, however, was not finished. He lowered himself again, this time sitting cross-legged near the creature's massive claw. The Vorgreth's eyes followed every movement, glowing with faint curiosity. It shifted slightly, but remained calm, its powerful tail sweeping the floor like a living pendulum. The Council's security drones hovered tensely, weapons primed. Delegates whispered anxiously among themselves. "Do you see it? It did not attack," one said. "The human is insane or brave, or both." Elias ignored the murmurs. He studied the Vorgroth carefully. Its breathing was heavy but steady. The wound from the containment shard was superficial, yet deep enough to cause pain. He could see small tremors in the massive muscles along its flank. He reached into his satchel and pulled out a small, sleek device, a med scanner designed to detect injuries and health conditions in alien species. He waved it over the Vorgreth's side, scanning the wound. The holographic display showed internal layers of muscle and armor. Nothing life-threatening, but enough to explain the creature's agitation. The Vorgreth rumbled softly, a sound that vibrated through the floor. Its large, glowing eyes never left Elias. He smiled faintly, speaking softly in a tone almost soothing. "It's okay. I'm helping you. You're safe now." Delegates watched in disbelief. No alien voice had ever approached the Vorgroth with calmness. Fear was the usual language of survival. And yet, here was a human, speaking as if to a pet. And the predator responded, not with attack, but with attention, a young envoy. A small winged creature from the planet Larathis whispered to her neighbor, "Do you think it understands him?" Her neighbor, a four-armed alien with metallic skin, shook his head slowly. "I don't know, but whatever it is listening." Elias carefully removed the shard that had pierced the Vorgreth during transport. He had practiced such careful procedures on smaller predators on Earth.
Ow.
Creatures far weaker than the Vorgreth, but the principle was the same: calmness, patience, and respect. The massive creature flinched slightly as the shard came free. Its eyes narrowing, yet it did not strike. Elias immediately applied a soft healing mist over the wound. The scent was alien, but calming. The Vorgreth growled softly, not a roar, but a low vibration of discomfort, you see. "Pain does not equal rage," Elias murmured. "Sometimes it just needs understanding." The council remained in stunned silence. Ambassador Threx's claws twitched nervously. I cannot believe this. He is actually communicating with it and surviving." Elias placed his hand on the Vorgreth's massive snout. Its hot, scaly skin pressed against him. The beast's eyes glowed, reflecting a strange intelligence, a recognition. Delegates gasped. None had ever imagined a human could be so fearless. "Do you see that?" whispered a reptilian delegate. It is trusting him." The Vorgreth let out a soft rumble and leaned closer. Elias patted its snout lightly, almost as if petting a massive, oversized dog. He smiled, speaking gently. "There you go. You're going to be fine. Nothing will hurt you here." A camera drone hovered closer, broadcasting the scene to the station's public feeds. Across thousands of systems, millions of viewers stared in awe as a human touched a creature that had been considered untouchable, a creature that had destroyed worlds. "Humans are unbelievable," muttered a Lyrathian envoy. Elias stood slowly, maintaining eye contact with the Vorgroth. "I want to understand you," he said. "I want to help you, and I want to make sure no one else hurts you again." The creature blinked slowly, a gesture Elias recognized from Earth predators as one of trust. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but to him, it meant the creature accepted him. The Vorgreth had not been tamed, not in the sense of submission. Instead, it had chosen to trust a human. The council members whispered frantically. "No species has ever shown this," said one. "They say humans are weak. Yet this one moves among the deadliest predator alive. And nothing." The Vorgrath shifted slightly, pressing closer to Ilias's side. The human crouched to remain level with the massive beast, speaking softly. "You are safe now. No one will hurt you. I promise." A security officer nervously raised a weapon, ready to react if the creature moved suddenly. But Elias held up a hand. "Wait," he said firmly. "It's not aggressive. It's just afraid, fear." That was the key. The Vorgrath's behavior was not about hunger or rage, it was fear. And the human knew how to address it. Delegates leaned forward, captivated. Never before had anyone in the galaxy seen such an encounter. Humans had always been underestimated. They were considered fragile, weak, and unpredictable. Yet here was Elias, calmly approaching death itself and earning the trust of the galaxy's most feared predator. This human, he's something else, whispered a small, furry delegate from Thraxis Minor. Elias noticed the Vorgrath's breathing becoming more regular. Its massive tail, once swinging tensely, now moved slowly and calmly. It sniffed Elias again and let out a soft, low rumble, almost like a purr. A murmur ran through the council. No alien had ever heard such a sound from a Vorgrath. None had ever witnessed the predator allowing contact. Elias knelt fully this time. His head almost at the level of the creature's, he extended both hands gently along its scaled cheeks. "I know you are afraid. You don't need to be. You are strong, but you are not alone." The Vorgrath leaned into the human's touch. Its immense body relaxed. Delegates could not believe their eyes. "This is unprecedented," muttered Ambassador Threx, the human. "He is bending instincts the galaxy considered unchangeable." Elias stood, keeping a gentle hand on the Vorgrath. "We can learn from each other," he said. "You have strength, power, and wisdom. I have patience, understanding, and curiosity. Together, maybe, we can find peace." A few delegates started taking notes, fascinated. The Vorgrath had accepted a human. The implications were enormous. Elias reached into his satchel again, pulling out a small, smooth device. He placed it near the Vorgrath's snout. It emitted soft pulses of light, a type of communication he had used with large Earth's predators. Slowly, he taught the Vorgrath to recognize it as a signal for calmness. The creature responded immediately, its massive body relaxing further. Delegates gasped. He is teaching it to communicate with him." "Yes," Elias said quietly. "And the galaxy needs to understand that communication is possible, even with creatures we fear most." For hours, Elias interacted with the Vorgrath. He observed its habits, its preferences, its subtle reactions. The beast, once untouchable and feared, now allowed a human to examine it, pet it, and even playfully interact. When the session ended, the Vorgrath did something even more shocking. It lowered its head, pressing it gently against Ilias's chest. The human chuckled softly. "You really are a giant softy, aren't you?" he murmured. The room erupted with quiet, awed whispers. Cameras recorded every moment. Across the galaxy, millions watched, transfixed by the unbelievable sight of a human, calmly interacting with a creature that had once destroyed entire colonies. The council realized something profound. Humans were no longer just another species. They had a unique ability that the galaxy had never considered, to face death without fear, to earn trust where no one else could. Elias finally stepped back. The Vorgrath rumbled softly, acknowledging him before retreating slightly into its containment area. Its glowing eyes followed him. A silent bond formed. Ambassador Threx shook his head, unable to speak. Every delegate in the room felt a mix of awe, confusion, and respect. They had underestimated humans. And now the galaxy would never see them the same way again. As the summit concluded, Elias walked toward the exit, still calm, still observing the Vorgrath with curiosity rather than fear. The creature followed him with its eyes, a silent guardian, a living reminder of the human who dared to approach the impossible. The news of what had happened in the Grand Hall of Aurora Peak spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Holographic feeds and communications relays broadcasted footage of Elias Ward calmly approaching the Vorgrath, examining its wound. And most shockingly, petting the deadliest predator in existence. Species from hundreds of worlds watched in disbelief. Scholars, diplomats, and ordinary citizens alike paused to observe. Some could not stop replaying the footage, fascinated by the impossible act of bravery. Others whispered in fear, unsure how a fragile-looking human could survive what no other species had dared approach. Inside the summit chamber, the Galactic Council gathered to discuss the unprecedented event. Delegates argued heatedly, a mix of awe and anxiety filling the room. "The human has done what none of us imagined," said Ambassador Threx, his multiple arms waving for emphasis. "He survived the Vorgrath. He interacted with it. He touched it." A reptilian delegate hissed, "Do you realize what this means? The humans are dangerous. They can approach predators no one else can. They might even control them." Threx shook his head. "Not control. Communicate. Observe. Understand. There's a difference." At the center of the debate, Elias remained calm, seated quietly on a small platform. He had been invited to explain his actions and share his knowledge. "Humans evolved on a planet with many predators," he said softly, projecting his voice clearly across the chamber. "We survived not because we were the strongest, but because we learned to understand danger, read emotions, and respond calmly. Fear does not teach. Calmness does. Patience does. Trust does." A winged delegate from Larathis raised a question. "But why would a Vorgrath trust a human? It has killed and destroyed. No other species could even approach one." Lias nodded. "Because it senses my intention. It is not responding to fear or strength. It is responding to calm, steady behavior. It knows I mean no harm. It may be the only species in the galaxy that can read that so clearly and respond in kind." Murmurs of agreement ran through the room. Some delegates looked skeptical, but many were beginning to realize the truth. Humans were different. "Yes," said Threx, his voice heavy with thought. "Perhaps the galaxy has underestimated them. They may be the first species capable of interacting with the galaxy's top predators without risk." A fur-covered delegate from Thraxis Minor spoke softly, almost in awe. It could change everything. If humans can communicate with predators, they could prevent wars, save lives. Maybe even mediate conflicts between species that cannot otherwise understand each other." Elias leaned forward. "Exactly. This is not about dominance. It is about understanding. If the galaxy can see that a predator, feared across hundreds of systems, can trust a human..." Delegates whispered excitedly. The implications were massive. Humans, long considered fragile or primitive, had a quality no other species possessed: the ability to connect across fear and danger. Outside the summit hall, the Vorgrath rested in a specialized containment chamber. Still observing Elias through the reinforced glass, it seemed calm, almost curious. Its breathing had slowed since their encounter. It occasionally turned its glowing eyes toward him, as if checking for safety. Elias studied it quietly. "You're amazing," he whispered. "No one believed you could be understood, until today." One of the council's biologists, a blue-scaled creature from Zypherion, approached cautiously. "Dr. Ward, your behavior defies every theory we had. We believed Vorgraths were instinctively violent, that they could not differentiate between threat and intent. And yet you've proven otherwise." Elias smiled faintly. "They are intelligent, like many species. They react to fear, anger, and pain. But calmness, patience, and respect, those are universal languages. They work everywhere, even with creatures considered untamable." The council debated late into the galactic night. Many were fascinated. Others feared what this human might mean for the balance of power. If humans could approach predators that no other species dared, could they also approach dangerous territories, planets, or even species with hostile tendencies? "I am not here to dominate," Elias said, sensing the tension. "I am here to understand and help." The Vorgrath is not mine to command. It is a living being that deserves respect. That is all. Despite his words, the seeds of admiration had already been planted. Delegates began to recognize that humans were uniquely capable in ways the galaxy had never considered. Not through strength or weapons, but through empathy, observation, and courage. Meanwhile, the Vorgrath had begun responding to Ilias's subtle signals. He used a small device that emitted gentle pulses of light, a technique he had developed on Earth for large predators. The creature would shift slightly toward the pulses, calming further with each repetition. It was learning, and Elias was teaching, not dominating. "This is remarkable," whispered Threx to a neighboring delegate. "No one has ever adapted a predator so quickly. This human. He could teach us how to communicate across species barriers." Another delegate, a six-limbed scholar from Zarkones, added, "Imagine what this means. The galaxy has been in fear of predators for centuries. But perhaps fear was not the answer. Perhaps understanding is." Elias knelt beside the Vorgrath's containment glass. He whispered, "I know you're still nervous, but I'm here. No harm will come to you. I promise." The creature tilted its massive head. Its glowing eyes seemed to study him, almost as if it was evaluating whether it could trust him fully. Slowly, it lowered itself, resting its massive head near the floor, allowing Elias to gently touch its snout again. Outside the summit, across thousands of systems, children and scholars watched in awe. Holographic transmissions showed the incredible footage repeatedly. A tiny human hand on the massive, scaly head of the galaxy's deadliest predator became a symbol of courage, patience, and empathy. Back inside the summit, Elias began explaining his methods. Predators are not monsters. They are creatures with instincts and emotions. They respond to fear with fear, aggression with aggression. But calmness, patience, observation, these can reach where weapons cannot. These can earn trust. Delegates scribbled notes frantically. Some argued among themselves, debating the potential consequences. "This human is dangerous," shouted one. "He could approach anything. Predators, hostile species, even enemy colonies." Threx raised a claw. "Dangerous. Or extraordinary. The human does not rely on violence. He relies on understanding. That is something no other species has demonstrated." Elias continued, "If we teach others this approach, we could reduce conflict. Predators no longer need to be feared. They can be observed, understood, and even befriended. This could save billions of lives across the galaxy." The council's atmosphere shifted. What had started as fear and disbelief was transforming into curiosity, admiration, and even hope. Some delegates even started imagining new possibilities. Humans acting as mediators, trainers or peacekeepers in conflicts that had always seemed inevitable. The Vorgrath, now calm and resting, raised its glowing eyes once more. Elias smiled, speaking softly. "See? You can trust us. You can feel safe." The council, watching the scene unfold, could not help but feel the truth sink in. Humans were extraordinary not because of strength, not because of numbers, but because of their courage, empathy, and ability to communicate across boundaries no one else could cross. By the end of the summit, a resolution was drafted. Humans would be invited to assist in predator relations, helping to mediate conflicts and communicate with creatures considered untouchable or uncontrollable. Elias left the summit quietly, but the impact of his actions was already being felt. Across the galaxy, scientists, scholars, and ordinary beings began to rethink everything they thought they knew about humans. The Vorgrath, now calm and aware of Elias's presence, followed him with its eyes, a silent acknowledgement of the bond that had been formed. It was not tamed, but it had chosen trust. And as humans gained recognition for their unique courage and insight, the galaxy began to realize something profound. They had underestimated humans for too long. In rooms, laboratories, and starships across hundreds of worlds, species began asking the same question: what else can humans do that no one else can? The Aurora Peak space station hummed with energy as the final day of the summit began. Word of Elias Ward's encounter with the Vorgroth had spread across the galaxy. For the first time, delegates and scientists were not whispering in fear. They were whispering in awe. Elias walked through the corridors quietly, observing the station and the delegates around him. He had been invited to consult on the Vorgroth's return to its homeworld, a massive, dangerous planet where no human had ever set foot. Yet, he remained calm. His focus was on the creature, not the spectacle, in the containment chamber.
Ow.
The Vorgroth was restless, but less so than before. Its glowing eyes followed Elias as he approached, and it made low rumbling noises that sounded almost approving. To any other species, the creature would have seemed unpredictable. To Elias, it was responding perfectly to the signals he had taught, its calmness, observation, and trust. "Are you ready, Elias?" asked Ambassador Threx, his multi-jointed arms folded. "This journey, it will be dangerous, even for you," Elias nodded. "I'm ready. I only hope the Vorgroth feels the same." The Council had prepared a special transport vessel for the creature. Its hull was reinforced, its interior designed for the Vorgroth's immense size and unique physiology. A team of scientists and security personnel were present, all tense, all aware of the risks. Yet none doubted Ilias's ability to handle the creature. Ilias entered the chamber and crouched near the Vorgroth. He gently stroked its massive snout. "It's time to go home," he murmured. "We'll be careful. Nothing will hurt you." The Vorgroth tilted its head and lowered itself slightly, allowing Elias to guide it toward the transport vehicle. Delegates and security watched in disbelief. No one had imagined a human leading a creature of this magnitude with such ease. As the transport doors closed, Elias remained close to the Vorgroth, speaking softly. Using the same signals and gestures that had earned its trust, slowly, the vessel lifted off, leaving the station behind. Outside, thousands of cameras recorded the moment. Across hundreds of systems, beings of countless species watched silently. Captivated during the journey, Elias continued his observations. He noted the Vorgroth's reactions to the artificial environment, its breathing patterns, and its subtle gestures. He documented everything carefully, knowing that the information would be invaluable for future human-predator interactions. "It's remarkable," said one of the council biologists. "You formed a bond where none thought possible. This will change how we study dangerous species forever." Elias smiled faintly. "It's not about bonds or power. It's about understanding. Once you understand a creature's fears and instincts, you can communicate without force." The Vorgroth shifted slightly, responding to Ilias's calm voice and gentle touch. For the first time, the council and the scientific team saw the creature as more than a weapon of destruction. They saw intelligence, awareness, and a capacity for trust. Upon arrival at the Vorgroth's homeworld, the planet's atmosphere greeted them with swirling clouds of toxic gases and violent storms. Only the most advanced ships could navigate safely, and even then the Vorgroth's presence made the landing tense. Yet Elias remained calm. He guided the creature to a specially prepared sanctuary, a massive open area with reinforced terrain and natural resources resembling its home environment. The Vorgroth sniffed the air, its glowing eyes scanning the surroundings. It growled softly, but not in anger. Elias approached, extending his hand slowly. "See, home," he whispered. "You're safe here. No harm will come to you." The Vorgroth stepped forward carefully, following Elias's movements. Delegates, scientists, and security personnel watched, astounded. A human had successfully guided the galaxy's deadliest predator back to its habitat without injury or chaos. Elias knelt near the creature's side, examining its movements and making gentle adjustments to ensure it could acclimate safely. He spoke softly, reinforcing the comm signals he had taught during transport. The Vorgroth lowered its massive head again, allowing him to stroke it one final time before retreating slightly into the open terrain. "This is incredible," murmured Threx. "No one could have done this but a human." "They are extraordinary." The council and attending scientists began recording detailed notes. preparing to share Elias's techniques with other species. The implications were enormous. Humans were no longer simply one species among many. They were pioneers in cross-species understanding, capable of achieving what others thought impossible. As the summit concluded, the Council passed a resolution. Humans would be officially recognized as mediators in predator relations and dangerous species research. Their unique abilities to approach, communicate, and calm even the most lethal creatures could now benefit countless planets and civilizations. Elias walked back to the transport ship, reflecting on the events. It had not been about glory or recognition. It had been about helping the Vorgrath, understanding it, and showing that fear was not always the solution. The Vorgrath raised its glowing eyes one last time toward him before disappearing into the sanctuary. It rumbled softly, a gesture Elias recognized as gratitude and acknowledgement. He smiled faintly, standing tall. Across the galaxy, the footage of Elias and the Vorgrath continued to circulate. Children of many species began asking about humans and their bravery. Scientists studied the footage for insight. Leaders reconsidered their assumptions about humans. Realizing that they were capable of more than they had ever imagined, Elias returned to Earth, quietly resuming his research. Yet the galaxy's perception of humanity had changed forever. No longer seen as fragile or weak, humans were now recognized as exceptionally brave, patient, and capable of understanding the unknown. Whenever someone doubted humanity, they would remember the images of Elias calmly petting the Vorgrath, guiding it safely back home. The human had done what no alien, no machine, no weapon could achieve. In time, humans were invited to participate in intergalactic research, predator management, and diplomatic missions. Their reputation as mediators grew, and their approach to challenges calm, patient, and observant became a model for others. On Earth, Elias continued his work, studying predators large and small, teaching others the value of patience and understanding. The Vorgrath occasionally appeared in reports, demonstrating trust and calmness even in its natural habitat, the Galactic. Council officially updated the Universal Database, adding a new trait to humans, unexpectedly fearless, surprisingly gentle, capable of bridging gaps between lifeforms that others fear. And across the galaxy, species began to whisper not about human weakness, but about their uncommon courage and empathy. Elias's actions had not only saved a creature and earned the trust of the galaxy's deadliest predator, they had reshaped the perception of an entire species. The galaxy had learned a new lesson. Strength is not always measured by weapons or size. Sometimes, true strength is measured by courage, empathy, and the ability to face fear with calm determination. And somewhere, in the sanctuary where the Vorgrath roamed freely, the creature lifted its massive head to the sky. Its glowing eyes reflected the distant stars. For a moment, it looked as if it understood the significance of what had happened. A human had trusted it, and had trusted back. The galaxy would remember that day. The galaxy would remember humans, and humans, guided by courage, empathy, and patience, had earned a place not just as survivors, but as legends.